Joining me now is Jason Tolbert of the Tolbert Report, TolbertReport.com. He's a conservative blogger, content partner, and talk business contributor. Always good to have you with us. Thanks for being here.
Good to be here.
We gained a little new insight on the U.S. Senate Democratic primary this week. We got another poll, a Daily Kos Research 2000 poll, that showed that this race is tightening up. Blanche Lincoln, 43%, Bill Halter, 35%, D.C. Morrison, 7%, and 15% undecided. Very similar to some other poll results I've seen recently. That caused us, through our joint project, the Arkansas Election Line, to move this race from lean Lincoln to toss-up.
Right.
Why is this race a toss-up?
Well, I'm more convinced every day, Roby, that this race is going to go to a runoff. I think Morrison is going to pull enough support that neither candidate is going to be able to get over 50%. Because of that, I think it's a toss-up. Now, I still think Lincoln will have the most votes on May 18th, but I don't think she's going to get over that 50% mark. Once we reach the runoff phase, it'll be a totally new race. We'll have to assess it again. Anybody can win in the runoff. It's going to just be a totally different phase of the race.
Yeah, one of the things that I've pointed out to people, too, is that the dynamics of a runoff, I mean, she could lead in almost every county and Halter could be in second place, and that's a different animal than if he wins some counties in a region of the state versus her winning some counties in a region of the state. For those who are unaware, the Arkansas Election Line Project is what?
Well, it's a joint project between myself and you and Blake Rutherford of Blake's Think Tank. And we get together, we look at where the races are in the state, give it a real local perspective, kind of an insider's perspective. We got people on all ends of the political spectrum between the three of us. And we have to get a consensus from the three of us on where the race stands. And once we get that, then we put our rating out.
We assign those ratings. And we moved another rating in the U.S. Senate race on the Republican side this past week. We went from leans John Bozeman to safe John Bozeman. Tell me why we made that move.
Well, the numbers are really solidifying that Bozeman really is the front runner in this race. His numbers are so far ahead of anyone else that it's going to be difficult for them to catch him. It's possible it does go to a runoff. 8 people in the race, it's going to be hard for him to get over 50%, even though I think he's going to be knocking on the door there. But even if it goes to a runoff, the 3rd Congressional District, which is his home base, Northwest Arkansas, is going to be so strong, even in the runoff, that it's going to be impossible for anyone to overcome those results. So it is likely that someone can take him to a runoff, but in that scenario, he's still the heavy favorite to win in the runoff.
Let's run through the congressional districts quickly. Congressional District 1, Rick Crawford seems to be solidifying his position as the front runner in the GOP primary. Agree? I
agree. We were kind of waiting on the fundraising numbers to come out to see if that race was going to stay that way or not. He definitely solidified that up. He has over $200,000 in the bank. Priscilla Smith just doesn't have near that amount. 4 media markets you're talking about in that district, so she's just not going to be able to catch up. Came into the race late, doesn't have enough funds to really get on TV and do what she has to do to catch him. In
the Democratic primary, Tim Woolridge has, it seems, consistently had a little bit of a lead, not great separation, but a little bit of a lead based on the fact that he's run in the district before, has some name identification residue from that previous race. And that race looks like it's heading for a runoff, too. Kind of how do you see that Democratic primary shaping up?
Well, I agree. It's definitely going to go to a runoff. Nobody's going to get over 50%. Tim Woolridge will probably get the most votes. I think he's the only one we can say for sure is going to be in the runoff. The second place spot is really open. Representative Berry's former chief of staff, Chad Causey, is certainly a candidate to get that spot. State Senator Steve Briles, he certainly has a chance of that as well. David Cook could be the X factor in this as well. He has a chance of making that runoff. It's between the three of them, really any of them can make it. We're going to probably be up late that night seeing which one of them gets the spot.
In the 2nd District, Tim Griffin, Scott Wallace, we learned a whole lot in about the last 2 weeks in terms of where that race is. Tim Griffin has a huge fundraising advantage and is starting to spend some of that now. Scott Wallace does not have a huge amount of money in the bank. We saw Tim Griffin hit the airwaves with a very effective TV spot this week. We saw Scott Wallace hit the mailbox with perhaps his last mailer. But let's describe where that race is kind of separating.
Sure. Well, the last poll we saw, a huge number of undecideds. I think a lot of people really aren't plugged into that race yet. They're going to be making up their minds over the next couple weeks. Tim Griffin is going to be on the air. He's going to have ads running during primetime TV. So people who haven't been tuned in are going to hear his name, see him quite a bit. That's going to help him quite a bit on Election Day, just for name recognition. Scott Wallace, you're right, sent out a mailer that said, save this card. This might be the last mailer I'm able to send out. Save this card. So we're not going to see near the advertising from him. Because of that, it definitely gives Tim an advantage, just sheerly because he's going to be reaching the undecided voters that Wallace is not going to be able to reach.
Yeah. On the Democratic side, they held their first formal debate this past week, and it would appear that Robbie Wills is the front runner by the fact that everybody was pretty much taking shots at Robbie Wills. But that one is still very much an undecided race.
I agree, and you're right. A lot of people were taking shots at him that night. Usually you kind of peg that guy to be the guy in front. But one interesting thing there with Wills, he draws a lot of his base in Conway. So he's going to be splitting a lot of that vote in Faulkner County between himself and between State Senator Gilbert Baker. They can't vote for both. They have to choose to vote in the Republican primary or the Democratic primary. That might hurt him a bit. I wouldn't be surprised to see him maybe finish second, but I think he does get into the runoff.
And I'll be moderating the second Democratic congressional debate for the 2nd District Tuesday night at UCA. Anybody paying attention, send me a question by email at roby@talkbusiness.net. Let's turn to the third. This has been a race, the 3rd congressional district race, the Republican primary, where I feel like it's a total crapshoot between the top 3 candidates that we've kind of identified in that race: Cecile Bledsoe, Steve Womack, and Gunnar DeLay. Any separation occurring at this point in time?
Not much. That one's probably the most muddy waters of any of the races. Certainly Steve Womack is probably the front runner. He's the one, again, everybody's talking about. He's the one people are taking shots at. So you have to think, because of that, he's probably the guy out in front. Bledsoe, I think, is right on his tails. I think DeLay, he's getting a lot of press as well. Mike Moore surprised me a bit. He's gotten a lot more attention than I thought he would at first. I think he probably wins his area of the district, Boone County, Carroll County, and plays a real factor. I don't know if he makes the runoff, but he's going to play a factor, I believe.
Yeah, and that one, nobody has a real exceptional amount of money. Nobody has an exceptional amount of a base outside of their core base. That one's going to be a very interesting one to watch. Talk Business contributor and content partner Jason Tolbert. You can check him out online at thetolbertreport.com. Always good to have you with us. Thanks for your insight.
Always fun.
All right. We'll be back with more right after this.